You're listening to another episode of the Anna Vivo podcast. Thank you for your time.
I know this is your favorite part.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Anna Vivo podcast. Blowing out your speakers, coming in live from Whidbey Island, Washington. I'm your host, Tim C. Miller. Joined today, let me just turn this down for all of you. That is some awesome music. I'm joined today by Joanne Crompton again. Hello.
Yes,
for
awesome
the
music.
second episode in a row, two-part series here. For those of you that were tuning in the previous week, part one with Joanne, we got some awesome look into your life and some of your biography, some fun, talking about who you are and what you do, and then wanted to have you back again this week for
And I'm back.
the excitement, more excitement. So, for those of you listening, thank you always for your dedicated listening support. This is not a professional podcast. We are not in a professional podcast studio. So you will hear ramblings and bubblings of, 7-Up? And
Zero sugar. 7-Up.
0-Up specifically. And a lava lamp bubbling over there and a candle burning. So thank you all for listening in spite of the unprofessional equipment and setup. So welcome back.
Thank you.
It's good to have you. Another hour of your time. I am honored, as always, that you would set aside that for myself and for us listening. And what did you think we were going to talk about today?
I thought we were going to talk about travel
Okay.
because I love to travel.
Then you are correct. Good. That was a pop quiz. One of the impetus, or what is the word I'm looking for? One of the reasonings behind asking that question is because you are a full-time missionary now.
It's true.
And what can you tell me about burnout in the missions field and how that all works? What is that, and what does that look like? And
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure to just sort of keep going, because the work is absolutely plentiful. The laborers are very, very few. And so it's our human nature is, especially with personality types like myself that likes to get the job done, just wants to go and accomplish what we need to accomplish. And it takes a lot of restraint on my part to stop and just ask God what He wants me to be doing throughout the week.
right. And you're pouring in to so many gals and people around you. You keep doing that for an extended period of time.
Right.
Now you just give up all entirely, not you specifically, but missionaries. But when you're sacrificing and living for the service of others, so often neglecting at the expense of yourself, there's got to be obviously a healthy boundary set up there that gives you some time to step back and rejuvenate and have your own cup filled by the Lord, and to de-stress. So that brings us to today's topic. When you do that, what does that look like for you? How do you de-stress? What are some of those ways that you rejuvenate, that you take a step back into the garden and find yourself alone with God to rejuvenate and refill before you go back out?
Yeah, I absolutely love nature, and I love seeing the nature around the world. And I've been really blessed with a best friend who lives on the East Coast, and so basically to get together with her, she's the one that sharpens me in God's word and helps me grow. She's my battle buddy. I've known her since I was 14 years old, and God just really gave her to me as a gift, as a friend. And even though we really haven't lived in the same place that long, we've just been able to meet together to travel, which has just been such a blessing, because then not only can we go see different places, and I love taking in different cultures. I grew up as a missionary kid. She actually did too, although she was only 2 when she came back.
Yeah.
But yeah, both of us just love seeing different cultures, seeing different places around the world. And so it is rejuvenating being able to see a broader perspective than just
Yeah.
what your little world can be.
Right. Awesome. And plus you're doing it as you mentioned, with her as a battle buddy, so you're not just seeing the nature around the world or the cultures or the people or the things by yourself, or strictly for pleasure as a part of some big tour group or something. You're doing this with another like-minded individual, a woman in this case who loves the Lord with all her heart and wants the best for you spiritually, and you for her. And so you get to kind of view what you're doing that week or those days or that month in light of that, which has to be exciting.
Yeah.
And encourage, and like, when are we doing this next?
Yeah. Well, and it is so cool to see how God loves to give good gifts, right? And so, every one of, so I've been able to go on a number of Disney cruises, and
oh
and
no,
it's just-
the worms
yeah,
are out of the can already.
Open, yes.
Oh, that's where we're going next.
But amazing how God has shown me through that just how much He can love on people, right? Because it is opulent. It's just over the top sometimes. And yet God's just like, this is how I love people. And it's like, wow,
yeah.
that's so cool.
So describe that to me. How does He love people through that? And in the midst of what I would think is, oh, that's just straight materialism, or opulence is a good word for it.
Yeah. I feel blessed that He's opened the door for me and my best friend to be able to go on these Disney cruises, because we actually have been on a number of them, and the way that God allowed us to be able to do that is just miraculous, because we both had a really good job when we bought into the Disney Vacation Club, and so we've been able to use points to be able to go on multiple ones. But but then my best friend went off to do grad school, so she really wasn't getting that paid that well, but so she had to figure out how to use the point strategically with me, and then now I'm in this position that I'm not, I'm a missionary. I'm not, I don't have a ton of money anymore. Very different than the engineering position. So, but how God has enabled that still to be able to be used as a place of refresh and renew, and a place for me to rejoin with my battle buddy and just reconnect with her, which is just wonderful. And it's things like the surprises. I remember I was standing on one of the cruise ships, and I was just waiting for my friend to get out of the bathroom, and I was standing next to a picture, and the picture started to move.
Oh,
and I was like,
no.
whoa, they got Harry Potter magic. No, just kidding. And I love that that's what, Disney is so good at using innovation with technology, and obviously it was motion activated, so I was there, and it motion activated to actually.
It's frozen most of the time for people walking by, but then when you
stand there,
right there,
it recognizes and it starts moving.
Man.
Yeah, it's really
awesome.
cool.
And creepy.
And creepy. Wait, what? But I love that's kind of a way that God does for us too. He surprises us in ways that you're just like, what? I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. What a great analogy. It's like the dimly looking in the mirror dimly passage, and if this is what that's like, and this is a creation of man,
right?
Imagine what's in store for us from our own Creator. So that is cool. And and you're right. Disney's known for that. They do a lot of great work in the fine details and making sure that no aspect of, even I remember at their parks, the trash cans are amazing in how they function, and that some of them are decorated in different ways, and you're just like, this is a trash can. I'm about to toss my my refuse.
It's definitely
in here,
the details.
It's the details,
get you.
So so we'll talk real quick again about this idea of why it's important. How do you balance that need or desire to refresh in this vacation time with what you feel, or maybe even what people's expectations of what you should be doing now in the mission field? Certainly in the engineering world and in the secular world, it's easy to say, well, this is my 2 weeks off, or this is the vacation time I have, and I've been working my butt off for this. I'm going to go. How do you now transition that in the mission field where people are like, you should really be serving the Lord all the time, and I'm donating my money to you? And how do you escape that guilt that may be over your mind or heart on this is other people's finances or expectations or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have a high, a value that I recognize that people are giving to me.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, they're giving to God and God's giving to me. And so I am responsible to God,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to be right with him.
Right.
And
Right.
and so yeah, if other people are going to have their opinions, their ideas,
Of course.
absolutely. But the reality of it is I can't be listening to all those because those are going to pull me back and forth. Like it talks about the waves that are tossed back and forth.
Yeah.
I was just reading the verse that talks about I need to be striving for his approval, God's approval, not other people's approval. Because honestly, that's the only way that any sort of ministry works is if I'm striving for God's approval and not other people's. And I mean, and he is the one that provides the money anyways. He's the one that changes people's hearts. Like I'm blown away with people that I haven't even met that are giving to me. I'm like, what? And that's just God.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
like, it's not like I was like, you need to give to me because I'm awesome. It's like, no.
Which may also be true, but besides the point.
Oh, that's kind of.
Well, and I guess people would speak strongly with their funds anyway, right? So I guess there's sort of a self-vetting approach to that, where if people see you on the peripheral and say, I don't really agree with that behavior or what she's doing with that, I'm just going to stop giving to you. And so I guess there's a reality there that if you're continued to be supported and blessed financially, then obviously what you're doing for the most part, by and large, is okay in these people's eyes, at least, which is helpful. So that has to be encouraging.
Oh,
from
absolutely.
some aspect. And then, like you mentioned, I mean, it's a heart issue too, right? And so you've got to be right before God, but you've also got to be strong in the Lord. And for you to come back here and then continue giving it all day after day, you need that time. You're not just gone 6 months on Disney cruises. We're talking
No.
we're talking a week, a couple weeks here and there throughout the year, not just disappearing. And so, I mean, how important is that time to just get away and let your hair down, especially on a cruise where they're serving you the whole time. I mean, food, making bed, all the great stuff. So they're kind of just pouring into you, which has got to be great.
Yeah, it is amazing just seeing their service to me and just, but yeah, just having the time to step away and just spend quality time with God. I mean, I like Karen and I will just sit there, and we're both fairly introverted, so we'll just sit there and be reading.
Really?
Really, yes. So we'll be reading like the Bible, just both of us, just sitting in front of the pool, like in the sunshine. Well, I'll be in the sun, she'll be in the shade. That's how we work.
This is why we're friends.
Yes. But just, and then like occasionally we'll be like, oh, did you, and then we'll talk about spiritual stuff. And it's just so encouraging, right? To remember, to laugh, to enjoy, you know, God's nature, but just also have a time where, both of us are being encouraged and built up instead of, like you said, ministry is often you're giving out to people who are struggling to walk with God, who don't know God at all, right? And so it's much darker in those times. And so to have a time of light and joy with a good friend who builds you up, that's that's necessary to be able to keep going, to keep pouring out into other people's lives.
So you mentioned she's on the other side of the country. How important is it to have women in this case that are one, walking with God and mature in their walk, but also that you've given permission to speak freely into your life from a point of accountability or correction or, calling out the nonsense, but then also, the love and the fellowship.
Yeah, we've had very blatant conversations like, you are allowed to speak into my life and tell me if I'm being an idiot. Please do it gently, but you can do it. And so, and she's been there, when I have been an idiot in the past and, just prayed with me and helped me. And, so there's, as all through that, it just grows the relationship of friendship and, and just seeing how God works in that is just beautiful.
And what a blessing to do it in a day and age where we have the technology for that kind of relationship
absolutely
to flourish as well. Okay, so I want to jump into the actual travel now. So we've sort of checked off the box, at least in my mind. I do feel guilty a lot of the time when I'm vacationing because of other people's expectations, although I'm an extrovert. And so there's some of that dynamic that's like, I need to live up to other people's kind of standards. But I wanted to kind of have that conversation because I think it's important for our listeners and for those that are supporting missionaries, supporting you, and understanding that there's a real need. I mean, this is a topic we could ad nauseum flesh out in healthy work-life balance in the mission field, and the potential burnout for that, and just becoming ineffectual for the kingdom as you go on because of either this guilt that says, I can never stop, I can never take a break for myself, or this, doing it the other way in unhealthy ways. And so we've established that. We've got that great foundation now. So now the fun, you're doing these vacations. Why cruising versus any other kind of relaxing activity? And or do you do both?
The cruises have just been, because they're so inclusive, and it's like you bring your bag, you throw it on, give it to the people, they take it to your room, and then
Wait, you have people?
I have people that you pay for. No, that sounds bad. Anyways, yes, they, again, like you said, they're there to serve, which is so amazing, and so they do all the stuff that you normally would have to do by yourself.
Yeah.
And so
Even on a real other kind of vacation, like if you went to a resort, or you went out to some wilderness experience, or you did whatever, you're saying the cruise part of that is just service from step one, dropping your bag off at the pier, to the time you get it back again when you get off. Okay.
Well, and just the fact that you don't have to lug your luggage around everywhere to go to many different places.
Oh, true.
Now you don't get to see a ton of, like, usually you're at a port for a day.
Okay.
So if you're, wanting more in-depth time, obviously you're going to have to try something different. But
Vacations by Disney.
but I love just seeing a little glimpse of the different places, and seeing the history and the culture, and obviously it's not a ton, but
Sure.
it's also some personality-wise, some of that can drain me if I'm there to study too much, as it were, right? If I'm there to just sort of learn a little bit and like relax
Little
most of the
taste of
time,
it,
because I really do enjoy going to the coffee shop on board, or like the pool, and just sitting and reading in the
That
sunshine.
is your relaxing
Yes,
style, is just
yes.
lounging out.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I have to have a good balance, but of going to see new places and relaxing. But
Which is
and
why
I think
the cruise
the
offers
cruise does
it.
a great
Okay.
job, because like you go out for a day, you see these different things, you can have these fun adventures. Like I got to go horseback riding in like Mexico, and
cool.
got to swim with dolphins. This was back in the day, but it was again, how God just like I couldn't have even thought about how God blessed me in these ways. So
Yeah.
it's his amazing way of thinking through things to just give me blessings.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Would Karen say the same thing about cruising versus other kinds of vacations?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Awesome.
Awesome.
That's funny. I texted her to ask, hey, what's some tips for traveling? And she texted back, and she's like, oh, you just have to make sure you have a friend that always checks a bag like you. I was like, thanks. That's why you travel with
That
me.
always checks a bag.
So she can throw stuff in it, because she travels so light.
She does all carry on.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She's a minimalist. She's very good at packing.
Yes. Awesome. That's more my preferred way. I've lost too many things on airlines before that I've learned my lesson. It was, I'm going to just carry this on.
Yeah.
So when you do a cruise, and it sounds like you did Disney specifically because you bought into this vacation, but is that true, or did you have the option of saying, I could do Holland America or Carnival or whatever, Princess, and different options, and then you decided to do Disney, or were you raised an African missionary and never had an experience with Disney and came to the big U.S. as a young girl, and you're like, what is this magical? I need this in my life.
No, it really, Karen was the one that researched it and actually found out about it years before they were doing cruises.
Okay.
She had heard that they were going to do cruises like a couple of years before. And so as we were going through life, and she graduated a couple of years before me. She went to the East Coast and started working, and then I started working after college, and then God led us back together to actually live together for a couple of years.
Cool.
And during that time that we lived together, she actually found out that Disney did these adventures by Disney.
Yeah.
And so that was the first intro to actually doing any sort of travel with Disney.
Okay.
And we flew to Australia and did a 10-day adventure around Australia. And
Yeah.
it was amazing.
Yeah.
I like just how they took care of, like you said, all the details, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember there was this windy road that we had to like travel on, and they were ready with like popsicles to help like with car sickness, and like you're just like on board with everything you need, snacks, water. It's like,
oh, wonderful.
woo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she had done that research versus doing any number of travel companies that would also offer adventures or cruises
Yeah.
or things. It just made sense, and plus the fun of Disney and how inclusive they are and how they think of those little details.
the two things of the nostalgia of just like the fun with the music of like stuff from your youth, right?
Okay. At least our youth in America. Did you have that experience?
We actually did have Disney.
Oh, okay.
I think it's pretty. I mean, like obviously not everywhere in the world, but Disney's pretty big around the world.
It was in Africa. Okay.
Yes. But the second thing is it's just much more family oriented, and
Oh,
so
sure.
I
Okay.
appreciated that as a single woman to go and instead of going to like a bar scene almost like a lot
Yeah,
of some of these
yeah.
can be more of a I just want to hook up type thing, and like that's not
Right.
what I wanted to do. I want to go have fun, and honestly it's kind of cool to see the kids and their excitement and their joy.
Yeah.
I remember there was one little boy that came up to Captain America on the
Oh,
ship,
cool.
and Captain America saluted to him, and he just was like in awe. I was like, oh my goodness, so cute.
And it was cute because even because he's a kid, even though he cut the line in front of you.
I was not in line.
Oh, okay.
I could have been.
I mean, I'm not gonna say that I wasn't also there to see Captain America, but I'm just imagining how different this is. You both as two women getting to do this on a cruise versus if I was going with a best friend and us two guys doing this on a Disney cruise. How more awkward that would be for the parents and everybody else. Like, oh, what are these two men doing?
Yeah, unfortunately, we did get a couple questions of if we were lesbian couples and stuff. It's like, no, but
Yeah, I know. It's weird that people would be just friends and traveling together.
yeah,
God forbid.
yeah, but
Well, that's a good point, though, about the differences, at least on something that's traditionally, I don't know anymore, but traditionally been more geared towards family like that would protect you and set healthy boundaries versus traditional booze cruise. And the even regular, I mean, Grace and I went on a Holland America, which was just really classy and like stepping back in time, honestly, for a number of reasons. But it was even then, there's a lot of the bar scenes and people, and I can imagine as a single person, it would be difficult to not be either tempted or just to not be harassed the whole time. So there's probably some good safety measures in that from a Disney cruising perspective. So for our listeners interested in cruising, be it Disney or any other kind of cruising, what are some tips or tricks or cruising hacks that you would recommend?
Well, so I only have done the Disney cruises, and with them, a lot of the stuff you just have to plan in advance. Like the port adventures are great. I like it in the fact that they take care of you if like they're delayed or whatnot. They're going to coordinate with the ship, so you're
If
not.
it's a cruise sponsored,
Correct.
yeah.
Okay. I'm assuming most of the cruises do that, but I have no idea because I've never looked
some of
into
them
it.
do. A lot of them you would do it on your own when you pull in, but you're right. There's probably some safety in that
Yeah.
of like that specific excursion planned by Disney and coordinated. Will, if there's an emergency, they'll take
Right.
care of you.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, and they'll make sure that, because if you get back to the boat on your own and you miss it, then it's on your dime to figure out how to get to the next port or just go back home. And so it's like, well, I mean, sometimes we would just do our things on our own, but for the most part, port adventures were the way to go. It just made it more fun and exciting.
Okay. Port adventures.
Yeah, let's see. One of the cruises we did from Vancouver, we went up to Alaska, and I remember the terminal at the time just did not have very good snack selection. So bring snacks when you're about ready to get on, because we were like right around lunchtime, and we knew we would have food once we got on the ship.
Right.
Like, there was like nothing
You
in
had
the
been
terminal.
fasting in preparation for the all-you-can-eat cruising.
They have a buffet as soon as you enter, but
Yeah.
then we had to wait a little while to get on the boat, and so I was like, come on. So yeah, having a good day bag with like the snacks and your swimsuit and all that jazz that you want. I mean, assuming you're going to be in a warmer place that you can like sit out by the pool once you
Yeah.
get on, right? Because you get on and there's, you can go get food. And the cool thing too is they usually have a raffle at the spa. And so we
Ooh.
actually have won a couple things from the
Wow.
raffle. Yeah, so if you just go check out and put your name on there. We won they had this, it was called a rainforest, like warm sauna area. It's really cool. Especially for like the Alaska cruise. That was wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and the app does a great job of like showing you all the different things that are
Okay.
happening during the day, and you
Oh,
can like
neat.
select
Yeah.
like, hey, these are the ones I'm interested in, so it will remind you like, hey, this is coming up. You need to go here and stuff like that.
That's helpful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Another thing, depending on, they usually have an early and late dinner.
Okay.
And so depending on what you desire, or if you're a family, you usually want to go to the early dinner because your kids are probably not going to handle going to a late dinner unless they're used to that. But yeah, just making sure that's set up way in advance, that you have the right like dinner reservation time.
Sure. Okay.
So things like that is really good.
How would you compare the sizes? I don't know, all the ones that you've been on, were they always the same size? Does Disney have different size ships and therefore people populations? And if so, does it ever feel like just an overwhelming? I'm imagining, not having been on a Disney cruise, I'm imagining the Disney parks and things like that, which is, wow, this is overwhelming, versus other cruise lines I've been on. Some of them, like Princess, are that way, and it's just, cattle everywhere. But then some, even huge ships, do a great job of putting restaurants in this nook and things in this nook, so you never really are running into crowds of.
Yeah, I think Disney does a great job. They actually, so they have 5 ships now. I've been on 4 of them. 2 of them are smaller. But they feel like
Intimate and
yeah.
good. And
I've never felt like, oh my goodness, there's way too many people here. And they do a good job of separating out. Like they have the adult pool section, and then usually all in the front is like the different things for the adults and stuff. So like the forward area. Up
that was
going to
be another question of like, how do you, as an adult, differentiate when you want some adult time and then you don't want Pluto in your face all the time, or Mickey and Minnie in your face all the time. Like, is there an escape for you?
Yeah, I mean, like they said, they try to have a good area for the adults to get away and enjoy their vacation too.
Yeah.
So I mean, they have times where they have parties together that are like the family parties and stuff, where everybody's together, like the pirate party, where Mickey comes flying down and saves the day against Captain Hook. It's out, you're out on the 9th deck, and there's usually like fireworks and stuff like that. It's pretty awesome. But everybody's like dancing, and that's where the whole family is. But then, there's usually later on at night they'll have just adult only like game shows or whatever entertainment and stuff. And so that's usually in the forward section of the boat.
Okay.
And there's like one floor that's mainly just for the kids, and then so you can sort of avoid the kids as needed. During dinner, you'll see them at their different tables. But
Sure.
Again, Disney does try to put you in with like people at your table. So we were usually with other single women or couples, or
you can request that, or when you're filling out your.
Well, they just did it actually for us.
Okay.
They just looked at the different like
Who you were and
were.
Cool.
I'm sure if there's an issue, you can request. And if you're with a big enough party, they're going to put you all together with your family.
Sure.
Right?
And they
So-
probably still also have like a buffet dining experience that you don't have to go to
exactly.
a sit down like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, so it is cool because it's usually some sort of show with the
of course,
it's a dinner and a
Beauty and
show.
the Beast, right?
Well, and they have different themes.
Be our guest. Oh no, not again! I just want to eat.
Yes, if you don't like the Disney music, you should probably not go on Disney cruises because they play it in the hallway.
Oh yeah, Yeah, you're sleeping. There's a little speaker in your pillow as you fall asleep at night. Disney, buy our stuff. No, stop with the magic.
Why am I broke?
Yeah, seriously.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. So that leads into a great follow-on question. For those that are interested in Disney cruises, would you recommend, and they are notoriously the pricier way to travel, whether it's the cruise or the park or the adventures, whatever. But the trade-off is they do everything for you, like you mentioned, popsicles on the windy road. They are caring for every aspect of that trip, and and they should be, and you're paying for it well. But it's but it can be so worth it. And so doing this program, the Disney Vacations Point program, essentially, Disney Club, is that something that you would recommend to anybody? Is that something you would say, hey, maybe just save your money and try it once and do it all cash first and then jump into this, or are there downsides, the typical timeshare, vacation club, maintenance fees, and all those kinds of things that you
Yeah, I mean,
regret?
I haven't looked at it recently. Obviously, it's going to be more expensive, and
Sure.
and during I mean, this was 2011 when we bought into it, and during that time, it was, I think we got a better deal than you get now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Of course.
So, you have to pray about everything, right?
Right,
But
right.
for us, God has really used it for us to be able to, like I said, like when Karen didn't have a lot of money, income, like we were still able to use the points, right?
Right.
And now similarly in my phase of life, as I don't have as much income, like we're still able to make it work with the points. And so,
And find availability. It's not so many people part of it now that you just can't cruise at all.
right. Well, and because the points can be used for many different things, depending on how many points you have, like, of course, you buy in based on the number of points you want every year. And so at the very higher end, you're going to spend a lot of money, but then you can do a lot of more of the adventures by Disney and stuff that are, usually thousands of dollars, right?
Right.
But this, like, for like a week of cruising, we get we get that for free. So we just have to buy our airfare to wherever we need to go.
Right.
And then
Then you just use your points.
use your points. Yeah. It also works really well for the hotels that are owned by Disney,
okay.
around like
Any of the parks or whatever. Okay.
Now they don't give the tickets to actually get into the park, but like staying at these hotels, which usually are much easier to get to the park, and you have longer hours if you stay at at these hotels that are owned by Disney to get in the park. So things like that are kind of nice, awesome perks.
Right.
Plus, those hotels are really nice, and usually, if I were just going to pay out money, it's going to be hundreds of dollars a night.
Right.
So using points for just a week of just staying at a hotel, it's like, wow,
Makes it worth it.
Yeah. So for us, God has really blessed us with that. So.
Cool. So it sounds like if you're someone who really enjoys Disney or doesn't mind it or wants to do it in a way like this, that may be a great way forward. So other types of traveling and or adventures, what do you enjoy doing? What have you done?
I've done mission trips, but that's very different.
Of course.
But
probably a lot more fulfilling.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a different perspective, and I did a bunch of them, like short-term mission trips when I was in college, and so one was down in Honduras, the other was over in Vienna, just helping out with different churches.
This is through your church here in Seattle, or was this through a program?
It was through the Baptist Collegiate Ministries on campus at the University of Washington that
Awesome.
we did a number of these. So, and then of course I got to travel as a kid because my parents took me to and from Africa, and back in 2015 I got to go take my best friend Karen to Ghana for like 5 days to show her where I grew up and stuff.
Cool.
So
that must have been awesome.
it was. God really went before
and
that.
Emotional.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really neat to see how God has worked in the lives of people over there and just really grown the Ghanaians to take on the ministry that my dad left. But I think personally for me, I got to stay with a woman who I had known we knew each other when we were like 7 years old, jumping
Wow.
rope together, right? And she was the daughter of a Ghanaian who worked hand in hand with my dad and took over like the
cool.
national ministry. And she is a really strong believer. And so I got to meet her and her husband and her kid, and just see how God had worked in her life. And
Man.
it was amazing because both of us had actually ended up getting degrees in chemical engineering. And we're like, what?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Without knowledge of one another,
Right?
you just
We had no, I mean, like, last time we would really talk to each other, we were like, I was probably 12.
yeah.
So,
Wow. Okay.
when we reunited in
That's
our
hilarious.
adulthood, it was like, huh. That's funny.
That's awesome, man. And she's not using it now, or she's also she using it?
Well, last I heard, she went actually to study in England to try to help with.
Okay.
So Ghana has energy crisis with like a lot of the developing nations. So she was working on sustainable energy ideas and stuff like that.
Okay.
So
Cool.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So missions trip, that's some of the places you've been and things you've done, and would recommend short-term missions
Oh,
to
absolutely.
folks?
Yeah. It usually you go there to help others and in the end you end up realizing how much it just impacted you.
Right.
And so it's cool how God does that. You're more blessed to give than to receive, and you really get to realize that as you go to pour into people's lives. A lot of what I did was actually just like manual stuff, like helping build a wall or take down the demolishing part of this church so that they could build another section.
Yeah.
But we also did get to, pray with people and, just hear their stories, other missionaries over there of what was going on in their lives and the struggles that they had. And, so just, it really broadens your perspective and helps open your eyes to, again, your little part of the world is, there's so much else that God is doing, and God is active all over. So
Yeah. So it helps realize that in his vision for his people.
Yeah.
Where have you been that you want to go back to?
Ireland was really cool.
Yeah. Short-term mission trip to Ireland,
No,
huh?
it wasn't a mission trip. That one was after we had done one of our cruises. We stopped by Ireland and spent a week, Karen and I, just staying at Airbnbs and traveling around. Yeah.
Just randomly, or do you guys? Is she Irish by?
So I'd wanted to go to Ireland, and so had she. But she actually, for part of her grad studies, was interviewing some of the people up there in Ireland.
Okay.
So it just worked out well for her to come and for both of us to go, and she did her interviews and dropped me off at like the Titanic Museum and stuff like that. So because it was built in Glasgow, or no, not Glasgow, sorry, Belfast.
Okay.
In Ireland. And so it was just really cool to and I love nature, right? So there's so many, the Cliffs of Moher and like the Giant's Causeway. It's just like, this is heaven to me. It's
Just
amazing.
wandering around. That's cool. A week, you said, after? Neat.
Yeah.
And just, sort of hopping place by place.
Right, right.
So you probably got to see a lot of the countryside.
Yeah, because we drove all over the place. Yeah. Rented a car, drove on the other side of the road. Whew.
So you would do that again? That was the question. Where would you want to go back to? You would want to go back, even though you saw a lot of that.
Yeah, we didn't get all the way south, so I'd want to go go all the way south, basically, in Ireland and stuff. But I just, I loved the nature and the beauty there, and definitely go when it's nice weather. So you can go outside. And it was September. It was actually really nice in September when we went.
Would you compare it to a desire to go to Scotland? I always associate not both of them together, but people say, "Oh, they're similar in this." But any desire?
So I have been to Scotland too.
Oh, okay, of course, yeah. Here, you put the pins on the map up here. This map has all the pins. You start just putting them.
It was after another cruise. We drove from Dover up to. Again, this is just God.
Are these cruises porting or leaving from international ports, and so you're just already over there anyway, and you're like, hey, we already paid whatever $900 to fly here. We may as well stay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the first one was a cruise over in the Mediterranean, just around the Mediterranean, and then we flew up to Ireland. The second one, we started in the Mediterranean, but we went around up to Portugal and France, and then up to to the UK. And so we stopped at Dover, and then rented a car and drove from Dover all the way up to Scotland, and then back. And so,
wow, cool.
yeah, it took another week to do all that.
Yeah,
which was really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the Green Highlands of Scotland are gorgeous, but there's something about like the cliffs and the water. I just love that better.
They have cliffs in Scotland.
Well, I'm sure they do,
and
but we
they have
didn't make
water.
it to that.
So you've seen the cliffs in Ireland, and you
Yes.
love that, but you know that Scotland also has cliffs.
But I don't know if they're as dramatic,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
So
sure.
like these cliffs of Moher, like they're the cliffs of insanity from The Princess Bride. Like literally, that's where they were filmed.
Cliff of insanity.
Yes. Don't think you're understanding here. Oh, no.
Well,
But Scotland did have really cool castles. Like that
Yeah.
was really fun to go around, and I mean Ireland does too. But they're very similar. Yes.
You're just trying to pick up for our Scottish listeners here. We love you too.
But in Edinburgh, we actually did a walking tour of the places that J.R. Rowling. What's her name? J.K. Rowling, right? Who wrote Harry Potter, where she went around and where she got a lot of her input for Harry Potter.
If she wrote Harry Potter, there's a lot of rumors right now that ChatGPT wrote it for her. You heard it here first.
I have not heard that, but I guess it's Tim C. Miller spreading the rumors.
So you did a walking tour of where she lived, I guess, or did
the different places that she wrote, because there was a cafe that she did a lot of her writing from, and then there's a lot of places that she got a lot of inspiration from up in Edinburgh, like the different streets where she, you can see kind of a little bit of how like, oh yeah, that could be like where she would get the idea of like the different places in the book.
It's the real cobblestone.
Yeah.
Are
That's
a
fun.
lot of those cruises, it sounded like they started somewhere and ended somewhere else.
So it just depends on the cruise. Most of them will go back to the same place.
Right.
But
That's what I'm familiar with. But,
Right.
But these ones didn't.
But there are ones that are they're moving the boat basically. So if you get on, they're going to be obviously a little not as prevalent. Like they're not going to be as many of these that are moving the boat. Usually,
But
those
maybe
going.
cheaper.
Well, maybe I didn't actually look at how much it was, but
We have points. Whatever.
exactly. That's the hard part. Is like, wait, how much do people pay for this?
This is ridiculous. And tips and fees, and government surplus, and gas and fuel surcharge.
Yeah.
Gratuity? What is that?
What is that? Yeah. But yeah, there's
But these ones did, and that's why you spent. Did you enjoy spending a week after the cruise versus doing that potentially before the cruise? Was it just a
looking back,
logistical thing?
Yeah, it
because
was. I mean, it was just
work?
logistical for how we were meeting up, and because I was meeting her in Barcelona where we left, and she had other stuff that she was doing before that, and so yeah. But probably I think doing it the other way would be better because it was a lot more intense just driving and stuff, obviously on the other side of the road. And so if we would have done the week first and then done the relaxing week, that's very would have been better.
That's what I was thinking, because you're coming off this high relaxation period, high caloric intake period. And so you're just sleepy.
I mean, they do have a gym on board.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it is not,
right.
I've used it a lot.
Who uses that?
Actually.
Really?
It's really nice because it looks out on the water.
Sure, they
it's
all
gorgeous.
do. I've seen 2 people in gyms on cruise ships.
Actually, I've seen a lot of people.
Really?
I've used it quite a
Really?
bit. Yes. Well, I cruised a lot during the time that I was actually running half marathons, so I would be training for stuff. Yeah.
That's a horrible idea. Why would you cruise while you're training? The whole point is to sit around and be fed.
No. There's some really good food, but there's also
And
really
it's
cool
all
stuff
you
to
can
do.
eat anytime. So I imagine driving first, doing some sort of high pace or high tempo vacationing in the country the week there would be more exciting.
Yeah.
Or maybe not exciting,
Well,
but maybe just more rewarding.
Yeah, well, I think it just would have been easier to go from the faster pace to the slower pace than from the slower
Yeah.
pace to the faster
Let's go.
pace. Especially since we were trying to make it a vacation. And so it's just, when you come back a little more like, oh, that was a little draining. I mean, it was awesome, but
So Ireland is the place you love and would love to go back to. Is that also the same answer for what is your favorite place in the world?
I don't know.
To visit, not to live. Just to visit.
Yeah, that's a good question. Where's my favorite place in the world? I mean, there were aspects of like all these different places that I've been that I enjoy. Like being in Australia, I loved being able to see the stars that were from the southern hemisphere.
Oh, yeah.
Like the stuff you never get to see on this hemisphere. Again, for me, it's like the nature and the beauty of that, of what God has created all over the world. And so,
even though all that stuff there can kill you, particularly in
it's true. There were actually
Australia.
these little like translucent frogs that came
Yeah.
into my living space,
of
and I
course.
freaked out.
Yeah.
And Karen to this day makes fun of me because I was so scared of these little frogs.
She wouldn't make fun of you if she knew what they were.
I know. They were about ready to kill me.
They
She's
were.
like-
That was their gang leader that was negotiating for your life.
It was a very close call, I'm sure.
No, I mean, even you've seen those jokes. Even the small things that look really cute want to kill you. They just can't because they're too small.
Yeah, God created very interesting creatures down there.
That all ended up in Australia. So you don't know. Maybe Ireland still, or whatever. All the little bit of everything.
I think it's a place that I have yet to go so far.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good segue into the next one. What's next on your bucket list of countries or places?
There's many places. I mean, so I've never been to anywhere in South America.
Okay.
So there's a lot of places in South America that I would love to go.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also always wanted to go to South Africa.
Oh.
I've never been down there.
The actual country of South Africa?
The actual country
not
of
just South.
not just the southern
Okay.
part of
Okay.
Africa.
I was say, Ghana
Yes.
is not.
It's
I don't know,
West
Would you
Africa.
consider that
No,
southwest
it
or
is
just
definitely
west?
west.
Okay.
It's not anywhere south. It's more northern west
Okay,
than
okay.
anywhere. And New Zealand is also one that I would love to go to. India, yeah. So there's just a lot.
Yeah.
Like I've got more places to go.
Yeah.
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 But we'll see how God leads.
Do you have another adventure planned already?
I do not. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys do a cruise every other year, every couple of years,
It
as
dep-
her schedule allows?
So
or-
yeah, it depends on just our schedules and the points that we have. We're thinking probably 2024 will be our next.
So next year.
Yeah, next year. So we're not going to do one this year. Probably we'll just wait until next year because I think we used up our points when we went to Alani last year, and so you
Okay.
can sort of like modify and roll
Yeah.
points as needed to
Right.
do a little bit more or less or whatever.
Yeah, the Alani, that's a nice place.
Yeah, that was another. Talk about God's blessing. Here I am sitting in Alani, and I'm just like, because this is December.
I shouldn't be here.
Right. I literally have no paycheck here. I have no paycheck,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting in this gorgeous resort with
Yeah,
my friends, being like, God, I don't how.
Mhm.
And yet God makes a way.
He does.
Like,
He does.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that was just a great time of, because I got to go with Karen and Stephanie, who's my current roommate. So just a good time of fellowship and friends and
Cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
reading on the
amazing.
beach. It's like, thank you, God.
You know, a shark got into the cove there at one point.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if it was the Alani's or next door is the Marriott, if it was their cove, but when they were first building them, I don't remember if the tide had come in or a wave was coming over or something, but somehow a shark had gone over that. They've got a little wall that's underwater there and had gone over and then it was just trapped in that lagoon. And so I'm always thinking like, you're just swimming in the lagoon thinking all is safe for you. And no, Jaws is right there. And he's so big, you can just see him in the lagoon. But no thanks.
It's okay.
So
If he's
next
a
year.
Disney shark, he'll be kind. No, I'm just kidding.
That's true, yeah. This was pre-planned.
Yeah.
It's part of the show.
Well, so the funny thing about like Disney too is if there's anything that goes wrong, they really compensate you.
Oh,
for
yeah.
it. We've had a couple of things. There's like we went to a resort where our door lock it's completely broke. And
Oh, wow.
so they came and spent like a half hour to fix it. But then they're like, oh, we'll comp you like $100. I was like,
Wow.
thanks.
Okay.
So, yeah, so they take care of you.
Nice. So next year, possible cruise. Don't know where. Just up in the air.
Yeah, we've talked about possibly going through the Panama Canal, but who
Ooh,
knows?
Exciting. Yeah. I guess you just have to, because it's Disney and they've just got the five ships, you just sort of
They're
have to
adding
plan it
another
on.
one next year, I think.
Okay.
So,
So 6. So you've got to sort of plan it on where they are.
yeah, a lot of them are in the Caribbean.
Okay.
And then Alaska, Mexico, but there are some over in Europe too. So we'll see.
So how do you de-stress? If you are churning and burning all week, all month, all year long with other gals here in the ministry and pouring your heart out and empathizing with all the chaos and stress that they're going through, and you know, taking that on and praying for them, and in the Word, and giving them up before the Lord all year long. How do you find time, whether it's daily or weekly or that once a year big trip, and what does that look like for you?
I think a lot of it is just taking time to thank God, and I love to play the guitar, even though I'm not that great of it. But
Oh,
like,
I
just
didn't know that.
there you go.
Oh, you should put that in your next YouTube video.
There you go.
That could be the background music.
Yeah, I have like some songs I can play, but just worship songs and just
Okay.
worshiping God, and just a lot of the time, what sucks life out is me sitting in the worries of myself or the worries of other people. But lifting your eyes up to the one who already has a solution to everything, and just remembering him. I think it takes mental practice and like just practice really to do it. Take the time to do it, but it really does help you have a better perspective and just ability to pour back into people as you get filled up just praising God. But yeah, so I'll just go out to a place that's beautiful, like a park or something, especially if it's sunny, and I'll either read God's word or sing, or sometimes just go for a run right in the sunshine. I love sunshine.
I need the sunshine.
I am like a little lizard. I just love sitting in the sun.
Why do you think I built a greenhouse? There's no plants in that greenhouse.
Well, that's odd.
Just a chair, a bucket of water.
What's going on in there? Trying to see if I can grow in a greenhouse. Okay. Is this greenhouse effect real?
Well, there's some interesting theological assumptions there from Genesis, and larger than life people and fruit and animals and things.
Trying to get 7 foot tall
before the rain.
do this.
before Noah came and all the rain happened. So yeah, that's a different episode.
Podcast.
So really just abiding is what I'm hearing. A lot of it.
And for me personally, because I am
exercise.
more introverted, I need the time to process after talking with people, right?
But not too much, because then you're back down to dwelling in that misery or whatever, the stress of that versus...
Well, and the processing is processing in prayer for
Okay,
them, right?
okay.
Like, it's not just, oh gosh, what do I do? It's, God, I'm bringing this to you, Lord, and then just going to God with, getting into the Word and just recognizing, I might not have the exact answer, but just being with God, will be enough for the moment.
Yeah.
So
Cool. And then once a year or so, bigger trips where you can actually just lay out and not have any agenda or plan or anything like that. Okay.
It is nice to break up, because I do have a good routine going of like, oh, I'm going to be meeting these ladies, or like these Bible studies, or this is what's going. And so there is a lot of go of like, okay, now I need to do this, now I need to do that. So obviously daily I'm trying to make sure I put God first and spend time with him, but then just being able to have those longer extended times where I can just be like, I'm not on the clock. I can sit here for hours if I'd like and spend time with God, or talk to my friend, or whatever it looks like.
You guys go ahead of me on the Sea of Galilee. I'll meet you over there on the other side, kind of thing. Like,
I need time to talk to the Father.
yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, any cruise-based adventures that you would recommend or that you're looking forward to, or tips that you would share?
Yeah, a lot of my travel has been cruises lately. I mean, I've also done road trips and stuff across
Yeah.
the U.S., and those are always fun. But yeah, it's
Just kind of up for anything.
I really am. That's part of it too. It's just I love just
I
seeing
don't
different
know. Yeah,
things.
it's
Like,
just all of it.
yeah, I'm probably not the best. I'm not a good critique. I'll tell you that much because I'm like, yes, let's just do it all.
Yeah.
Like, oh boy. We need to be specific about
Which
these
is good. It
things.
keeps you curious, which
Yeah.
is learning and wonderment, and you want to keep, the focus of that why. And so you're about a year into this full-time missions thing, and all of the stress and blessings that come with that. How do you feel looking back, and how do you feel going forward?
Looking back, I am absolutely amazed. Like, I just, it was about this time last year when God really showed me that He wanted me to pour into people's lives and to be a missionary. I definitely, for at least a month, was like, nope.
I have a real job, thank you.
But yeah, just how God's worked on my heart and just shown me, that and blown me away at how much I do love it. I love being able to pour into people and love them. And, even though I am a little more introverted, just how God has given me the grace to have the strength and energy to relate with a lot of people and to just encourage them and try to show them the love of Jesus and help them walk with God. So that's blown me away, and just how many people have been excited for my journey. And it really, like, looking back, I know it's just because people want to know that God is alive and active. And so when there's someone that's like, okay, let's do this, God, and then God is showing up.
I will be your vessel to show them that you're alive, for better or for worse.
It's blowing my mind, like, how God is working. Like, I'm just amazed. And so, I mean, and I know there's an amazing community here on Whidbey Island that's just stepped up behind me and encouraged me and bolstered me. And yeah, I'm blown away at how much it's like a wave just taking me, like, okay, God, wherever you want to go, let's do this. Looking forward, it's exciting, but it's also, I have no idea. I wish I had better of a plan, but then again, if I had a plan, then it wouldn't be God's plan. So just, again, just trying to hold everything with open palms and just recognize that, I don't even know how much longer I have in life, but He does. And so just Psalm 90, verse 12, teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom, right? Has really been going over and over in my mind of just whatever time God has for me on this earth, let me use it wisely for His kingdom. And so a lot of that will be, is dying to self of like, but I really want to do this. Well, okay, well, you can wait for heaven for that, okay? Yeah. Because there are so many people that need Jesus, so.
So if women want to get a hold of you and be discipled by you, I guess, or just meet, what does that look like? Do they just call you or email you and say, "Hey, can you fit me in your schedule?" I mean, is it is it formal? Is it informal? How does it work? Do you seek them out? You're at a Bible study or church, and you see someone that you think might benefit from meeting together or something, and you're pursuing them. How does all that work?
Yeah, a lot of it's prayer on my part, just asking God to show me who to minister to and to meet with. And currently it's been just people through the Bible studies that I've met, the military ladies. And so just meeting with them, trying to see what their needs are and, just how to help. And I wish I had a better equation for like this plus this plus this, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. We got it, but that I'm realizing so much more is that we as people we want the right answer, but the problem is that we forget what's really important is God. And so oftentimes He doesn't give us the one right answer because He wants us to come to Him. And so with every person that I'm meeting with, it's like, okay, God, you know them. I don't. Help me know what to read, what to talk about, what to ask, right? To draw people out. Because most times people don't even know themselves, right, of what they're really wanting or needing.
Right. Or you yourself as the missionary or your supporters want quantifiable data so they can say, how are you serving the Lord? Or you can say it, in a justification purpose of, this is why you're supporting me, or this is, I've saved 3 women, or, whatever. 3 women came to the Lord, and, or I'm meeting with 16, for these hours, which isn't bad in of itself to obviously be able to know that data, but it sounds like yours is, you're not so much after the Monday through Friday is my work week. I need to have, 2 women a day, and we're meeting at these times. It's more just like, hey, you're on duty tonight? Great. We'll meet in the morning and let's talk about whatever. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm still, as this is all fairly new, right? I really didn't get really started until about January, February. And I'm still technically in training. So I also have other training stuff I'm working through. But yeah, just learning about the military more, especially the Naval Air Station, and just learning the specific women, and just how to understand truly what their needs are.
Yeah.
And how to, I feel like each woman, I'm like, okay, that's slightly different. We'll do this with them. Okay, that's what, it's like, I wish I could just be like, I know, I wish I could just be like, okay, we're all going to do this. But that's, just trying to, and maybe it'll come to a point where we can all get together to do Bible study.
Sure.
But yeah, just, again, I just want to be open to what God wants, because, he's the one that, I can't do anything without him. So it's just trusting.
And you're looking back now over this year, and you're contemplating as you go forward, did you make the right call? Did you make the right decision? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Sometimes I'm like, what am I doing? But honestly, I am blown away at God's goodness. And especially after that conference back in February, back in Maryland, how many people came up to me and were just like, this is such a need for women in the military to have hope, guys in the military that were like, oh man, I have so many women friends that I would love to be able to pass them off to someone like you, right? Yeah. That could help disciple and grow with them. So I really feel God has definitely just been like, yep, you're in the right place. So
you're in it now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there's always going to be stuff that's, that you struggle with, but
Sure, yeah.
I'm learning so much more that it's in those struggles that I get to find God in a deeper way. So even in that, it's blowing my mind how even James, I think it's chapter 1, it talks about, consider it pure joy when you face trials of any kind. It's like, I'm understanding more. I don't know if I want to understand more, but why? Yeah.
Here I am, Lord.
Yeah. So
cool. Good. So it's something you may end up doing. We may end up having another episode, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and you're like, yeah, we're still doing this. Or wow, things have wildly changed since that time. But so far you're loving it, the Lord, you're feeling fulfilled, and
absolutely. Like, I love being able to pour out to women and just help them walk with God. I mean, I get to do Bible study and talk with people about Jesus all day. So,
yeah.
I mean,
what more could there be? Somehow cheating the system? Well, my lava lamp timer is activated, and the little bubbles are rising slowly. Yep, there goes one, which means we have come to the end of our time. But I would just want to thank you again so much for the opportunity to be here with us for the second week in a row for our listeners, and looking forward to have you again in the future.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. And as my kids would say,
thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Ana Vivo podcast. We welcome your feedback and ideas. You can learn more about us by simply Googling the word Ana Vivo. This podcast is supported by listeners like you. I am a licensed real estate broker with Compass Real Estate and a nationwide real estate matchmaker. We consult with you for free, find and vet the right real estate professional that specializes in the area and niche you need, are paid by that professional, and they get clients like yourself who want and need their unique specialty or winning track record. If you or someone you know is in the market to buy or sell real estate anywhere in the U.S., don't simply web search the highest paying advertiser. Let us use our licensed experience to find and vet the real and best professional for you. It costs you nothing but a phone call or email with me, and has saved my clients financially and emotionally. I'd be honored to serve, and you can reach me direct by email at tim.c.miller@outlook.com. And as always, to God be the glory.